All right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening.
Hello, hello,
Good
everybody.
evening. So we are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. As always, if you be so kind and put on the comments that you can hear and see, I'll check it on my mobile phone whether LinkedIn is, working. And we
Yes,
can start with our wonderful team today.
exactly. You can already put in how much you missed us. We missed you the last
Yeah, yeah. I
session.
was I was on the vacation,
So
so that
yes.
was the
Oh,
reason.
I wasn't going to sell you out. I was going to say you were hard at work.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, we are there. We are there. It's working. So
Wonderful.
it's good. So LinkedIn looks like it's working.
All right,
So
YouTube's
yeah,
up.
there is a yeah, Nika from Finland. So looks like
Yes.
YouTube is working. If somebody from Facebook can ping us also that it's okay and we can start, it would be great.
Yes.
I see
And
on my StreamYard that it should be okay. So let's start. So again,
I was going to say, I have some trust. We'll just
good
kick it
evening.
off.
We have a good team, how to work with the other people and get best of other, people. I mean, in general, I can tell you people are difficult. I love
That is exactly
I
right.
love to work with the other people, but they are difficult. And I tell you why, because they are different.
But this is exactly right. I always tell people the hardest part about business has
They are
nothing to do with
absolutely
business.
different. Everybody is different. That's so difficult. Anyway, so listeners, you
Yes.
can start.
Yeah, you did such a nice job of teeing it up. So actually, this topic came at the end of our last LinkedIn Live session, which is now almost a month ago. And we were talking about how do you be authentic? How do you be yourself? But also, how do you recognize and accept that other people will think differently and be different than you? And how do you get to be flexible? So not stay stuck, not using authenticity to say I am who I am and I this is how I am, and not losing yourself to others. We also don't want to encourage you to just people please and just do whatever anyone else says. So, the real question here today is how do we get to know ourselves? How do we get to learn how to read other people? And then how do we get to be flexible enough to understand what's going on for them, understand what's going on for us, and find a way to find the middle ground? In case you're wondering how expert negotiators do this or how influencers do, this is the process that they do, which is why we're going to talk about it tonight. There's not a magical secret. Some people are good at reading people and other people aren't. There's an absolute science to it. So, at least from my side today, I'm going to share a few very simple tools that you can use to already walk into a room and go, I have a model in my head, a framework in my head. I know how to categorize and put this person, at least I understand a little bit more about how I should talk to them or what it is they're looking for. And that will already help you to be flexible to meeting their needs outside of just doing what feels comfortable for you. So that's my kickoff, but I always love you, and you always have some really great notes written, and you go through,
Yeah,
great
yeah,
stories.
I will. And I will say the reason why human beings are difficult because we are different.
Mhm.
And the reason why we are different is called mindset. Everybody got a little bit, different mindset. Mindset in general is how you see yourself. It's called perception. How you perceive who you are as a personality. We can talk how you can, learn more about self-awareness. So how you perceive yourself, how you see the other people around you, that's second, and how in general you see the world. Okay. And because we've got, different genes, every human being is original. We are born as originals. Unfortunately, many people are dying as a copies, right? And the reason is that we are programmed, during our lives by our parents, by the teachers, by the bosses, whatever, right?
Yeah.
If we are, when we are born, we have like 110 billion brain cells. It's called neurons, and very early we are really formed by our parents. What are we are like listening, we are looking to our parents, we have a mirror neuron, so we are really copying what the parents are doing, or the people who are doing our education and so on. So we are getting a lot of programs, and that's how our mindset is formed. Okay, mindset about us, mindset about the others, and about the world. For example, there's a one thing which I hate. If parents, if you go to the school and you are, for example, very good in English and math, and you are not that great in geography or history, okay, and your parents would not say, hey, you are great in those two, in English and math, you need to get a little bit more in geography or history. They would say, hey, Joe is much better in the history and is much better in the geography, right? So they are starting to compare you to the other people. And what? Guess what? The kids will start to hate the other kids and the other way around, right?
Yeah.
This is not necessary. This is not necessarily good how you form your mindset. But what is interesting, you can change your mindset. It's called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is ability of our brain to change basically the synapses. Synapses are pretty much capturing our knowledge, our skills, what we learn, and all of our programs. But because synapses are fluid, indeed they are like fluid connections among the neurons. You can rewire your brain. It takes some time, but you can do that, absolutely, right? What we know from epigenetics and from quantum science is that our thoughts, the way we see the world, we perceive ourselves, other people, is basically influencing the life we are living. Because indeed, what quantum physics is saying, that our thoughts, our in fact consciousness is influencing our body, the way we are creating biology, physiology. How? All you were born with more than 25,000 genes. Okay, those genes, majority of the genes, more than 95% genes, are not starting automatically. They will, do something based on the environment they are in. So, give you example. When you do the job you like, there is a great environment, you are working with the great people, you learn a lot of endorphin, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin is released, and all of those hormones are having very good impact on your genes, and those genes are creating proteins, and proteins are creating your body, so you will be probably healthy, and you will be, there's a very high, immunity. If it's the other way around, unfortunately, there is a cortisol, and it has no very
Stress.
good impact on your, mental health and or your physical health, right? And obviously, the medium, to provide all of those chemicals, those hormones, is our blood. That's why you can figure out from the blood, your health basically. That's why we are doing all the tests and everything. So what I try to say, wherever you are in your life, you can change your perceptions, your mindset, and so on. It takes some work, and I think the most important thing is to study who you are, to understand
Yes.
who are the other people. There's a lot of leaders, so-called leaders, who think, hey, I understand everything, but unless they understand who they are, they will not be able to understand other people. So that's kind of the kickoff from my side.
Yes, I love it. And Jan, we just have to do a quick pause because I see we have a comment from Facebook that says LinkedIn is not working. So if there's something behind the scenes that you can do to work on it.
LinkedIn is working on my.
Okay. So Ivana and anyone else who's having
If you
trouble
will,
with,
if you will try to go to my profile, and it should work, right?
yeah,
I don't
I
know.
see us talking on as it's playing on your screen. So
Yeah,
hopefully it's there. Otherwise, if you're experiencing any problems, YouTube, Facebook,
go
we're
to my
all
channel,
out there.
Jan Mulfight on YouTube or on Facebook, and it should work. But I have in front of me on a StreamYard, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So it should, unless there is some issue, we have refreshed several times, but not possible to watch on LinkedIn. I don't know why, Ivana, because the on mobile phone, yeah, Vladimir is saying it's working properly. To be to
But
be
from
honest,
Facebook, he said that.
from the Facebook,
So
sorry. Okay,
yeah,
so well, we have a more options. So hopefully you can get. I mean, on YouTube for sure. You go to Jan Mulford, you will see. There's a, even if you are not on Facebook, YouTube, you don't need to have an account, and you go there and should be
yes.
fine.
Otherwise, you can always watch the replay as well. So
Yeah,
we've got
absolutely.
many options for everyone.
Sure.
And I just wanted to share here what I feel like is really important, because there's one baseline that I start to use to help people to understand themselves and to start to understand other people. And it's a very easy one. Most people have done personality assessments before. Hey, they're more or less the same. I mean, don't worry about which one you particularly use. I use one called HBDI, Herman Brain Dominance Instrument, fancy way of just what they have now termed it is called whole brain thinking. And I'm going to explain it to you. For those of you who are interested, go Google it. You can see a picture. But I want you to have it in your mind, because it's the simplest, fastest way for you to start to understand how other people think and how they think differently from you. So I want you to imagine there's a circle and it's cut into 4 quadrants, because business people love having quadrants, right? And in one quadrant is the blue color, the rational. So we all know someone. Give me the data, give me the facts. Let's be rational, to the point, rather fast, because they don't want fluff left, right, and around. They want just the information that they need, not more. Then when you go down a quadrant, underneath that is the green quadrant, this safekeeping quadrant. These are the people who love the plan, but what's the next steps? How do we do this? What's step 1? What's step 2? What's step 3? What is the exact date that it needs to be done? These are the people who are wonderful at project managing, right? Because they want every detail. For these folks, they like to slow things down a little bit, make sure all the details are organized, and they're deep in the details, okay? Now we have a quadrant that is next over to the green. It's the red quadrant. It's the emotional quadrant. It's the people quadrant. How's everyone in the group feeling? Does the team have a good connection together? So it's really that people stuff. And the last one up at the very top again is the yellow. And that is the big picture, Steve Jobs style, visionary. I'm thinking about the future and what's possible, and optimism and lots of good entrepreneurial ideas. And so as you're walking into a room, as you're thinking about the colleagues on your team or the people that you manage, immediately think about, what preferences do the people around me have? Now, most people don't have one preference, they have 2 or 3 preferences. So if you're dealing with me, I have a very strong yellow preference, meaning I love big picture vision, entrepreneurial. I want to put food on Mars. I want to think at that level. And obviously, Jan and I are coaches. We love people. We love psychology. We love how people works. We want to interact with people. For me, I don't love every single detail, the Excel spreadsheet, the facts, the planning. I'm like, hey, we'll figure it out, right? And of course, we need some data and some facts, but actually, I'm much more of an intuitive thinker. So if you come to me and you want 17 details and an exact plan and you want to show me data, I'm going to fall asleep. I need a story. I need some excitement. I need some adventure. I need to know how we connect to each other. So again, just already hearing that, you don't really need to know much more. Already you can start to think, what are my natural preferences? Many people in business have a preference for data. Makes sense, right? But if you're wondering why you're sitting in a meeting and you're going, oh, this person again asking a question, slowing us down, that means they have that preference in that green quadrant. For them, it's very scary and intimidating to have lots of big picture ideas and lots of stuff going around, because in their mind, they're going, but how, but how, but how? To feel good, they need the details. Just the opposite are the people who are like me, don't give me the details. I want to feel big. I want to think big. I want to think future. That's what makes me feel good. Now, we all do what makes us feel good. The people who have a strong preference for the data, facts, get to the point, they don't want to chit chat about your weekend. They don't want to know about your dog's surgery. And for the people who have these emotional preferences, you walk into a meeting and everybody's like, okay, agenda, let's go. Boom, boom, boom. It's like, how cold, how rude. I'm a person. So already just knowing, okay, we have at least these 4 preferences. Start from there. If there's someone who's a people person, chat with them. How are you? If you all have preference for data, hop right in, no problem. already knowing your preference, knowing what's going to annoy you, and being able to go, okay, breathe. Let me do the thing that's going to make them feel good as well, will get you very far, very fast. And it's very easy to do once you're aware of it and you actually think about it. What are the preferences of those around me? Also, do this with your kids and your spouse. They will appreciate it. I have plenty more I can share, but Jan, I'm sure you also have something that you want
Yeah,
to pop
yeah.
in here as well.
And Lisa talks about something which is called, human dynamics, right? How, because everybody is a different. There are different. You mentioned some test or some methodology. There is a Myers-Briggs, right? MBTI. There is a Strengths Finder or Big Five, whatever, right? Those are, and you can do it, but those tests, as Lisa rightly said, will help you to figure out how people exactly what kind of mindset they have, what are their preferences, because even like if there is somebody, I think according to some scientists, like it's like 50% of the people are visuals, 40% are like audio, and 10% are kinesthetic, they are like moving. Like Bill Gates was like that, right? He was
Yeah.
always like doing, he was sitting, he was doing
Yeah.
this. And it's good to know, where you basically overlap, where you are the same, where you are, different, because in this, difference, that there is a huge, advantage, because when, for example, I'm, fast thinker, I don't think I always think in a proper way, okay? So, but I have like we call it, the pink glasses. I see everything, and everything will go and whatever. And I need somebody always close to me. We call it in Czech, Thomas, who does not believe it in the good way. You know what I mean? Like
Doubting Thomas. Doubting
yeah,
Thomas.
exactly, exactly. People who will challenge you in a proper way, who will say, "Okay, it's fine, but what about that? What about that? What about that?" And this is where you create the synergy, because the best teams, whether you will be the member of the team or leader of the team, best teams work in the following way: you understand who you are, so you understand other people. Then you see where you overlap, where you are like complementary, right? And the best teams are having some meaning, right? They are inspired, and this is the way when everybody sees, hey, this is my opportunity to contribute, uh, because human beings, they want to cooperate. Our brains are wired to cooperate and help other people, right? So and then obviously we talk also, Lisa mentioned the word emotions, right? Emotions are playing very important role in like decision making, in our thinking, and so on. So it is good to have, they call it, some people call it emotional variability, to really understand your emotions, because if you understand your emotions, then you can understand other people emotions, and you can, you don't need to agree with the other people, but you can accept, hey, they are different, so they have a different emotions, right? Basically, that's what you can do. The one thing, if as much as the dynamic of the human dynamics are concerned, very often in organizations or even in sport teams, people with the different opinions, they are perceived as enemies, and that's bad. It's really bad, because we can be, and we are friends with Lisa, and probably if we will go through different topics, we may have 10%, 20% different opinions, we may argue, and that will move you ahead. Whatever will happen, we can still stay the friends. In the Western culture, very often, if you have a different opinion, you are not part of the group, right? And this is stupid, right? Microsoft was very much argument driven culture, and you would need to argue to get some resources. Argument is absolutely fine if two persons are sitting in the same room, agreeing with each other all the time. Then probably at least one person is redundant, and maybe both of them, right? Because there's no movement, no progress. So progress is very much driven by the new questions, new arguments, and so on. And we should, listen to the people. That's another, very important, skill, right? So it is about understanding who you are, understanding, other people, and make sure that really we can have a complementary, opinions, listen to the other. We need to make clear also in those groups who is like contributor and who is decision maker. Because if you are in the business is not democracy, sorry. And business is not like, popularity contest. No, right? You can be good leader and people would say, oh, he's a tough guy, whatever, but you can still be good leader, develop people, develop business, and so on. But yeah, this is it. And that's why it's not easy to lead people.
I have tops on my list, Jan. I'm so with you on conflict.
Yeah.
Conflict is an inevitable part of life, an inevitable part of business.
Exactly.
And believe it or not, Jan and I don't just get called in to help people who are in conflict. I get called into teams who don't have enough conflict, as Jan said, because then you're not getting the best out of people.
Then you are not progressing. No.
Exactly. Yeah. Being nice is not the point of the job. Now, of course, we don't want aggressive conflict where people are feeling it's a toxic culture. So the question then is, how do you have, conflict that's productive? And this is usually top of mind for people. I don't know if I should speak up, when I should speak up, how to speak up. So the very first thing I would say is, yes, you should speak up. If it's, you're in a meeting, for example, I work a lot with consultants. Consultants are taught you do not contradict another consultant on your team in front of the client because you don't want to look like you're not united. I think this is nice. There's a way, though, that you can still, in a meeting, disagree without disagreeing. So here's the tip, right? When you're going in, you say, yes, that's correct. I love that idea. And here's another thought to add for you, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. You're just expanding. You're part of the team. So oftentimes we think of conflict as it has to be a fight. So the very first mindset shift is sometimes it's not a fight. You're not against. You're just expanding what's possible in the conversation. I actually don't like to think of conflict as a fight. More often than anything else, when I teach conflict resolution or negotiating, you're not against the other person. You and the other person are working together to solve a problem that's out there. But you two are together. The conflict is not with you. You are on the same team because you have some challenge out there that you need to work together to fight against. So then the question is, when you're in conflict, inside your team, I have an idea, they have an idea, and our ideas don't align. Find places where you do have it in common, see where there are commonalities, see where it makes sense. Most of the time when people have a conflict about the how do we execute? What should the strategy look like? Do we do this? Do we do that? It's because there's some sort of an alignment that's missing higher up in the thinking process. So often when I hear people, no, it should be this, no, it should be this, no, it should be this, I go, okay, hold on. Where do we agree? And what's the higher level that we need to understand? Instead of just conflict, here's my opinion, here's my opinion. The last thing that I would say is find the right space for your voice. If you're a person culturally, if maybe you're an introvert, you take a little bit more time to process. Don't feel like, well, the moment's passed, I'll just say nothing and let the extroverts have it. Oh, things went too fast. All right, it's not worth it. It's worth having your voice heard and getting into the practice of standing up, not worrying, ooh, this is conflict. This is contribution. Jan said it so nicely. This is contribution to the team. This is the unique value that I can bring. And be open to listening for others' contributions. It might be that someone says something and you validate it and you say, thank you so much for speaking up. I have team members too. I say, I love that you are thinking of new creative solutions. We're not going to be able to implement that. I don't have to say yes. We're not going to be able to implement that for reason XYZ, but I can still encourage. I love that you spoke up. I love that you had creative, innovative ideas. I really appreciate you thinking about this after the fact. So they are encouraged to keep coming back, keep speaking up. They don't feel shut down. They don't say, oh, we're in conflict and Lisa, she never listens to my ideas. And we're in this together, but I'm still saying no. This is something that people don't yet have that art to do. So if you have questions, put them into the chat box and Yana and I can talk you through anything.
Yeah. I think the other topic we should, mention now, it's probably how to communicate, because communication is a key, it's absolutely key. And we are not taught, like with emotions, we are not taught in the school how to communicate. I mean, sometimes we are getting some course on like presentation skills and so on, right? And I would say that, from the communication experts, only 7%, basically content is only 7% of the success. Okay, like your voice, whatever, it's a couple of other percents, and majority it's your body language, the way what you do. Yana is asking if translation is provided. Yana, if you go to YouTube, you can push the subtitles, and on YouTube you can have it in Czech, right? I don't know about the quality. I will say it in Czech. Jano, můžete jít na YouTube a tam si zmáčknete ikonku titulky a budete to tam mít česky. Jo? Na Facebooku to asi není, myslím. Tak, alright, let's go back. So, body language is super important, and face expression with like 70 different, muscles in the face. Okay, now I will start, even if there is, imagine situation, there is a tough atmosphere, there is a disagreement, some conflict, whatever. What a smile is doing in the room, okay? What a smile is doing in the room for you and then for the other people. Smile is basically, because if you are smiling, it's very hard for you to be pissed off, basically, because we have something which is called, vagus nerve, nervus vagus in Latin, goes from our, brain through, whole body. And it's a very important nerve because it's influencing our, nose, the way we, breathe, our, how we swallow, our, digestion system and everything. If we smile, it's very good for this, nerve. And we are like cooling, down. Now, Alcaraz, the second best player now, because Djokovic since last week is number one before Alcaraz. Alcaraz started to smile during those, matches, and everybody was like, hey, is it probably crazy, whatever? No, it's not crazy. It is a good for whatever is your performance, whether it's sport performance, business performance, smile is very good. Now, if you smile, the other people, everybody got so-called mirror neurons. That's why, kids can learn from the parents, even though they don't speak yet, whatever, So you basically mirroring, other people. So if you smile, other people will also cool down and the overall, atmosphere will get, better, right? So, yeah. This is it. Ivana put there is a very insightful, I'll put it here. Inside video, I was reading the people body language. Don't miss that one. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff also on YouTube. Body language is very important. For example, what I learned, I was always like, if I was talking to somebody, I used to have hands like that. Very bad, very
bad, Jan.
You need to have an open gesture. Yeah, I changed it like 20 years ago, even more. You need to have an open gesture, because try it, because if you will do that, then other people may start to mirroring you. They will do that and see the dynamic. Try, for example, if you are sitting opposite to some other person and you talk, and that person would get legs like that, try to put your legs the other way around and follow like the discussion, the dynamic, and then be in harmony with the other person. It has absolutely huge impact on the quality of discussion and the way it's called, I think it's called pacing, maybe, or whatever. I don't know.
The mirroring.
So non-verbal communication is very important. The other thing what I learned when I was a young manager, it's always, whenever you communicate, it's always your mistake if the other people don't understand you, right? Because you need to be able to really talk. I mean, and I learn a lot when teaching the kids. I'm able now to explain all concepts about the mental toughness, flow, optimal performance to 7 years old as much as to 50 years old, top manager, right? Because you need to adjust your communication and the message, and ask some questions like, yeah, hey, can you tell me, if you understood, or in your own words, what you learned from that, whatever, right? And get some feedback, because otherwise, very often, if you are like young manager and your thinking is quite fast, you go and say boom, 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 right? And then people, they are afraid to ask you usually, and they are, and they go, and unfortunately they are not doing what you told them to do, right? Because it's a fault of the communicator, majority, not maybe always, but majority of the time it is your fault. So you need to, and everybody is a different. That's why it's great to understand who you're talking to. Lisa rightly said at the beginning, if there's somebody with analytical brain, I cannot start with the big concept, because that person will be lost. And the other way around, I am having big picture brain. I need to look at the big picture, and then we can talk about the details. If they will start about the details, I'm lost, right? That's why when I was at the university, very often I was lost after like 1 hour. I was lost. When I was learning on my own, I said I will create my own structure. I put it down. It was absolutely fine. By the way, like details, and everybody's learning differently. We have a different learning styles. Absolutely.
That's exactly right. And now is the point. We're halfway through. I wanted to ease people in slowly, but now I'm going to go into the brain science. I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. But this is the part that when I go in, I teach, executive presence and stuff like that. This is the part that people miss, because of course, everyone calls if they want training for a presentation or media readiness. So Lisa, tell me, how's my body posture? How do I hold my hands like this or like this? And I say, look, I can teach you how to do the voice, how to do the shoulders, how to stand upright. Most of this, most people already know. It's not about knowing and using mental strength to figure out and hold my body this and this and that. You're using too much working energy, then you're not in the flow of conversation in the presentation. What you need to do is work on the inside. And then the outside will naturally come. As you said, I can't be angry and smiling. I can't be super relaxed and confident and be sitting like this with my arms crossed across my chest. It just doesn't happen. Your body naturally knows how to stand when it feels open and relaxed and confident. For people who are very nervous, especially with public speaking, they're like, how do I stop my voice from shaking? How do I stop moving my hands so fast? And I say, on the inside, you don't feel so nervous. That's the answer. There's no magic trick on the outside.
Exactly.
So we need to understand how the brain works. Everybody probably who's listening at least has heard of the amygdala, right? What do you call it? The monkey brain, right?
Monkey brain, yes. Monkey brain.
So the lizard brain, the monkey brain, this is the animal survival side, right? And this is only 4 options when we're there. Fight or flight, you've heard of. Fight, flight, freeze. I'm deer in headlights, and appease. I just do whatever someone else wants. I don't want to get in trouble. The bosses do it this way. I do it this way. I just give up. Not because I agree, not because I think it's right, but I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get fired.
Yeah.
Fight, flight, freeze, appease. That's all you got. If you're in amygdala and it's a strong amygdala reaction, that's all you've got. But guess what? Most of the time, we're scanning for threats. We're in heightened levels of awareness that we're in threat.
Okay.
And this is why some people say, I need the details because I need to feel safe. They're feeling threatened, right? Some people will feel overwhelmed with the details because they want to let go of the threat. The overwhelm puts their threat detection on. This is why when we say, hey, different people have different personalities or different styles or different mindsets, Actually, if I can be totally honest with you, in the biology, all we're talking about is how do we help people to get out of this amygdala area, because it feels uncomfortable for people. They don't like to be there. They don't want to feel like they're threatened, right? Our bodies, we're humans, we're animals. We want to feel safe. We don't want to feel threatened. So really, when you're managing people, and we said this in many different ways, let's talk about your emotions, let's talk about your conflict style, let's talk about your communication. All we're actually trying to do, negotiation, influencing, all of it, all we're trying to do is get people out of this amygdala place where they're feeling threatened and nervous. We try to make them feel safe so that they can flip over past this bodyguard. The amygdala is the bodyguard to the rest of your brain. And once you're past that bodyguard, hey, not such a big threat here, you can relax, then you get to this great, amazing parts of your brain. These are the smart parts of your brain. You want to be there. Prefrontal cortex is the thing that makes us very human. It's the thing that my daughters do not have yet because it doesn't develop fully until you're 25. And this is why they cannot regulate themselves very well, for example, or make good decisions or stay committed and hardworking. Because that's the very human prefrontal cortex part of our brain. That's the part of the brain that you want to be in, but that's also the part of the brain that you want other people to be in. Why? They're nicer to you. They're friendlier to you. They're smarter there. They're more creative there. They're more optimistic there. All this stuff. So we have to learn how to get past this threat detection that's within people. Most people are very afraid of looking stupid. Do not make people look stupid, or do not make them feel stupid. So many times in business, we want to give people feedback. And our feedback is, you're doing this wrong. It's not good enough. Fix this. What part of their brain do you think that you're going to light up the part of their brain? Now, okay, there are some people, some high performers who use that as fight, and they say, okay, then I'm going to learn it. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to figure it out. Some people do that still, by the way, in the amygdala, but at least they're doing it towards a positive end. Most other people, I'm not good enough. This is never good. They have imposter syndrome, and then they don't like to be around you, but they're not going to tell you they don't like to be around you. They don't even know that they don't like to be around you. Their body tells them this person is threatening. So if you want to know why some people might be a little nervous around you, why there might be more conflict with some people or another, it's because you're triggering each other's amygdalas. So all we have to do, it's very simple. It's not easy, but it's very simple. All we have to do is not trigger each other's threat detections. If you want to know a little bit more about yourself, if you want to know, okay, so what is my threat detection? What sets me off? You can go to the website positiveintelligence.com. You take a little assessment. It tells you what are the things that are going to be in your mind that are going to make you go, I'm not good enough, I'm a smart enough. Okay, so you're going to see in there, I have the restless personality. When I have to sit with something that's hard, I'm like, no, on to the next thing. Let me do this. Let me do this. Let me call this person. Let me get here. This is my way of escaping. This is my flight. Fight, flight, freeze, appease. Other people, you're going to see hyperachievers. Okay, what's next? What's next? That was yesterday that I won that Olympic medal. Who cares? What's today? What's tomorrow? Because they're running through achievements. Some people are controllers. I have to know everything that's going on. Some people are sticklers. I will look at the grass, and if there's one blade of grass too tall, I will take a pair of scissors and cut it. This is how people have their amygdalas triggered. And once you start to get a sense for what triggers you, again, self-awareness first, and you get a sense for what might be going on for other people, you can start to learn how to not trigger them, how to say things in a way that doesn't set them off. If you can do that, you can do everything else you want to do in terms of working with people and getting the best out of them. Simple, but not easy. Okay, I've talked a long time. Anybody who has questions, put them into the chat box. This was a lot. Jan, you're kind of smiling over there. What's going through your?
Yeah, I may add what Lisa said. I'm sure you were what, and I will be complimentary to what Lisa said greatly. I'm sure you were at the meetings when everybody was fighting everybody, and there was a very like negative energy in the room. You were fighting. That's why all monkeys were. The room was full of the monkeys. Okay.
Monkeys.
All right. I'm sure you were at the meetings also, at least few, where there was a lot of synergy. When you were like, you like what you, a lot of your contribution and contribution of the other people, and there was a lot of complementarity, a lot of synergy. Now, let's talk about the second type of the meetings and why those are happening. What I do with the teams, recently I was with the Erste team in Slovakia, you know in strengths finder, you can find what are the strengths and talents of each and every person, and you can put it on the spreadsheet. And those, there are like 34 different teams: executive talents for execution, relationship building, influencing other people, and strategic thinking. You see immediately what is the picture of what are your strengths, what are strengths of the other people, where you are the same, where you are complementary. And this is the way you start to work. Okay. And the thing is, if you are able to have a flow in the room, flow are moments when we as a team or individuals are working on something tough, but we are at our best. We are using our best, talents. And the team flow, it's a little bit of synergy. My talents are, covering Lisa's weaknesses and the other way around. So we are complementary. In the flow, individuals, that's the study from McKinsey, and the teams are 500% more productive. Number one, they are learning 450% faster, and they are 400% more creative. This is it. And you have a choices, right? It is, the second type of the meetings. It's more difficult because you need to understand who you are. You need to understand other people to really, listen a little bit more, right? And those type of the meetings, they are also those type of the people. If they understand who they are and who are the other people, they are very much open to talk about their own, mistakes and so on. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the way how you create learning environment. So it's a synergy. You take best from each and every, member of the team, and you are very much open to talk, about mistakes, because we are they are learning mostly from our mistakes, but we don't like them because if you are in the first type of the meeting, everybody would say, oh, you made a mistake, oh, that's bad, right now. You are open to talk about it, and you encourage other people. And I think this is the way also how you create strong relationship. We are a really strong team. We know each other, and we can work nicely together. It doesn't matter whether you are like football, the soccer team, or Americans, or my software development team, or my sales and marketing team. It does not matter. And I think the major issue is that we are not teaching self-awareness even at the best business schools and schools in a general. And then it's kind of uh, we try maybe a little bit in the companies, but it's not very much done in the structured way in my view, right? And it's quite, it is not that difficult, and you can work with the people with the very different profile. To be honest, one of the reasons why I was successful in my career, I was hiring different people. At the beginning of my career, I was hiring the same, people, because ENTJ in extrovert, you take your intuition, you are a thinker, you are a judger. They are usually hiring the same type of the people. When I learned this is not good, in a tough way, when I was like 35 years old, I started to really hire people who were complementary to me, and very often they disagree with me, and that's absolutely fine, because this is the way how we move. The word, by the way, the word competition, the word compete from Latin means like moving together. So
It's exactly what we want. And we've got a really good question here in the chat box.
okay.
So, what to do if me as an employee, I'm a better leader than my own boss, who's a real donut? I've never heard that phrase before, but I love it.
Real donut.
And considers every feedback linked to his leadership skills as an attack against his ego. So it feels like it's fighting a lot. Like I said, rule number one, never make anybody feel stupid, wrong, bad, incompetent. They're not going to be open to that feedback. So now the question is, where can you start praising the stuff he's doing well? When we get praised for things and people say, oh, you're doing that great job. Oh, I really like the way you did that. Guess what we do? By the way, all of us perk up. We love to get praise, and we're going to do more of the stuff that people seem to like that we're doing. So first of all, using positive praise is really good. Second of all, the way that you can give feedback, and if you want to write down a very specific example, we're happy to coach you with the wording live, is first of all, ask, would it be okay if I gave you some feedback? Is now a good time to give feedback? As long as the word yes comes out of their mouth, you've already switched a part of their brain because you've given them like the autonomy to be able to make the choice.
Right.
Now, it's very rare that they say, no, keep your feedback to yourself. They might say, hey, now's not a good time to do it later, but they usually say yes. But because it's been a choice for them and not forced on them, already you're getting them out of threat mode. Now, if you go on my LinkedIn, I have an article about how to give brain effective feedback. And I talk about how to give the scenario, the situation that's behind it, the behavior, not judging, you did this was bad, not the judgment you put on the behavior, but the actual behavior that happened. Not you're always late to meetings, but in the last 3 weeks, in these 5 meetings, you were, you showed up 5 minutes after the starting time. Neutral, not a judgment word. This is the hardest part. Neutral. What's the impact? Who cares? You showed up late. Who cares? You have to explain what's the impact on you or on the team. And then you can talk about suggestions or giving an additional area of feedback. But just attacking someone, just saying, I know better than you do, people don't like that. I don't like that. You don't like that. Then we close our brains down. So if you really want it to land, we have to find that way to sneak it in so that the brain is more open. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, and there is one additional type of it's called sandwich feedback. You basically, whatever is the result of that activity, you praise the person first, and that's the way how you will achieve that serotonin is released. Okay, if serotonin is released, that person feels good, and you can go with corrective feedback, but you should not criticize person. You should basically talk about the process, as you rightly. It's a like option to what you said already, right? And that in under those conditions, the other person amygdala is sleeping basically, right? And he or she is able to listen. And the third point, you express the trust in the person. If that second piece will be done like that, you will be even better, right? Whatever. And we have a lot of trust in you, and that's when oxytocin is released. So that person is like leaving your office or the room knowing what was done well, where she or he needs to improve, and feeling like, good, I'm still part of the team, right? Because you don't want to, I mean, a lot of bosses, they want to show, hey, I'm the boss here, right? But then you like demotivate your troops, and it makes absolutely no sense.
Exactly.
You want to get what is best in the people, right?
And
I think
yeah.
if your boss, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's hard to find anything good in him. I don't know him, that. But maybe if you wanted to give him some tough feedback, you may start with, hey, boss, this was done, well, and you're doing well in that sense. But, I think I can, help you a little bit, to be even better, right? And that word, even, better, I think it's kind of the, okay for the amygdala. And you can give the additional, feedback, right? Because a lot of people, the issue with the feedback is that, my amygdala, if I'm like pissed off and I try to provide feedback, so I will talk about the person and say, as Elisa said, I will say some total judgments like, you are always, late, or you are always wrong, it's impossible to work with, stuff like that. And if it's really like that, you should fire that person. It's your fault.
Yeah.
But I don't think it is like that. It's just your, amygdala, because the things are not that bad as your, monkey is telling you. So
Yes. And I wanted to share, this is back something you said earlier, Jan, which is, gosh, we never learned this. We never learn about our emotions, how to correctly regulate that, this level of self-awareness. We don't learn. I'm super happy that I am a coach as part of an EMBA program here, as part of the ETH and the University of St. Gallen, which are some of the best universities in Europe. And they do a special MBA called an EMBA X. And it's exactly this new way of thinking about business. So it's part entrepreneurial, part the economics, and it's part personal development. And we go very deep. And I no spoiler alerts for anyone who's going to join in the future. But in the very beginning, we have people fill out an assessment. And I can tell you the coaching questions that I ask, this is an MBA, the coaching questions that I ask is, so tell me about what it was like at the dinner table for you as a child. And they go, what? What are we talking about? And I say, yeah, we need to understand the thinking patterns that you developed in the childhood, because this became your adult operating system. It's not a therapy. I'm not doing any trauma reduction of any kind, but I'm helping to point out, how, your role in the family. Look, I was the fourth child. I was the baby. I had to get a lot of attention somehow. Some of that still shows up in my life now, right? There's a reason that I stand on stages and sing and dance, and, because I learned from an early age, if I want to get my parents' attention, I've got to do something big. It's not bad. It's not wrong. They didn't do anything. It's not like a blame your parents thing. It's just a noticing that how I grew up, in order to feel safe and loved and belong, how I grew up was that. And if we understand that level of depth about where did our operating system come from, you can start to build on your strengths, and you can start to be okay with, I avoid conflict. By the way, I avoid conflict because I had a lot of fights with my siblings. I don't like that feeling because I was the one who was picked on. They were always yelling at me. So now I know whenever there's conflict, I feel very uncomfortable as an adult. If I don't have this awareness, it's very easy for me to just avoid it. But as we said earlier, if I avoid it, then I don't have my voice heard and I don't create deep relationships because I just shy away from saying anything. But I have to know, why does it make me feel so uncomfortable? Why does it trigger that amygdala? And then I have to override it. I have to say, okay, I know what's happening, body. I know you're doing your thing. And I'm going to choose to speak up now. And this is why that self-awareness is so important, because the authenticity that we started talking about last session and today, authenticity is often just what's been programmed into your amygdala for what feels good and what doesn't feel good, or safe and doesn't feel safe. And it doesn't mean that you should be stuck or trapped in that. You can absolutely grow where you feel safe and comfortable. Don't use authenticity as an excuse to stay small or in the comfort zone. We are pushing out of the comfort zone. I'm uncomfortable with uncertainty, and I'm going to keep going for it in business because that's what's required. You need to have some uncertainty, right?
Yeah, there is a discussion, among psychologists, whether we have a really free choice, whether we have really freedom of choice, because we are pre-programmed as a human beings. On the other hand, there is a neuroplasticity, and if you change the way you perceive yourself, other people, and the world, you change your mind and you change your life. What Lisa was talking about, I'm teaching at, in SAD, my seminars, and at Luxembourg Business School. And Luxembourg Business School is quite different. It is a relatively new school, expanding hugely. What is interesting in Luxembourg, there's like 500,000 people. A lot of people are commuting there, but it is a very international environment. So sometimes I have an MBA class, like 50 different nationalities, 4 different continents. And it's interesting. The question you are asking, like, what was your, I was like, hey, what was your, upbringing? And for example, in India, it's very hierarchical, right? And they call me, even they call me sir, or some call me professor. I said, I'm Jan, I don't want to, right? Germans, they call me Mr. Milfight, right? Or Herr Milfight, whatever. But then I believe that like the global companies are putting people together, and they are, they neuroplasticity is getting changed by this, like, hey, we are part of the Microsoft or Google or whatever it is, UBS in Switzerland, whatever, right? But what is quite interesting that, you should also have in mind that each and every country is a little bit different, and the mindsets of the people are really like culture differences, right? The way, like, Germans are saying, do, but also Z, you know what I mean, right? Those
Yes, formal and informal.
German, yeah, formal, and it's formal. I mean, American environment is very informal, right? But you need to be aware of those, cultural differences if you really try to understand, other people. I don't think, we are on, and to know what are like commonalities, right? We are different, and you can capitalize on that, difference and diversity. That's my belief. Diversity in your team.
Yes, this is exactly right. So important. I'm glad you brought it up because it's still on my list. Intercultural. You can't just say, well, we all work for a Western company, so these people from other cultures should just act Western. They should just speak up. Well, if you're, from an Eastern culture where it is not okay to speak up, it's still going to feel scary. Even though you've said, hey, my door is always open. That didn't change 40 years of training in one way because you said your door is open, right? So you've got to then start to ask what's going on for you? Can you give me feedback to what would you like to share? Let's call on this person to speak up. Some people will always be very polite in a meeting. So don't put them on a spot to make a decision because it feels very rushed and rude, right? When my second job out of university was at Sony, which is a Japanese company. And I didn't understand the concept of nimawashi, where you have to have a pre-meeting to align so that in the meeting you could then formally make the decision. But you wouldn't just meet to discuss in the official meeting. This just wouldn't happen. And so you have to, again, be flexible enough to say, does it make sense for us? Because I'm American, I can be very straightforward.
Yeah.
And yet it's what's going to put them into the safest part of their mind. Where do they feel comfortable? I can flex to help others to feel safe and comfortable, not just because I'm being nice, but because when they're in that headspace and I'm in that headspace, that's how we get the best out of each other.
Exactly.
And that is the most important part of working together, seeking out the diversity, understanding they add value. It's not just frustrating and annoying. It's amazing. They're doing something you don't do. And making sure you feel safe and you get others to feel safe, the psychological safety, not physically safe, but emotionally in the group safe. And you will find out you get the best out of your teams and out of people.
Yeah. Lisa mentioned authenticity, and I think it is very important for our relationship with the other people to be really authentic.
Yeah.
And I would add the trust is driven by authenticity and predictability. You can be very tough with the people, disagree, but you should be predictable, right?
Yeah.
Right? You should not change the rules of the game during the game. You should, you know what I mean, right?
Yes.
Because then people will really, like, if you will say, hey, it's like that, and then you will change, immediately, right? then you are not a trustable person, because you simply are not. Because people can survive a lot, but they like clarity. Clarity is very, important. And a lot of people are telling me, Jan, but we are living in the age of uncertainty. I appreciate it. I think the certainty is illusion, right? Today, right? What is
Yes.
certain? So it is illusion. On the other hand, in the age of uncertainty, you can have a clarity. I can have my clarity is that the only thing I can, influence directly is my performance, whether it's my physical or mental performance. I can't, and my thinking, right? I mean, I cannot influence anything else, and that's a lot of freedom for me, because sometimes I'm, winning and I'm successful. Sometimes not. I'm, learn from my mistake. I move on. There's a lot of, space everywhere where you can do business or whatever. But I think you can still have, in this age of uncertainty, you can have a clarity for you and for the other people, right? That this is it. Because if you have
Yes.
like your personal values, like one of my personal value is fairness, so I try always, whatever it takes, I try always be fair. This is it for me and for the other people. And I believe what you are sending to the system, whatever is the system, whether it's a human society or some team, whatever, it's getting back to you, right? Funny enough, that's the last point. 6 years ago, it was one of the first seminars. There was a father, Philip, with his son Philip. Okay, Philip was at that time 13 years old, and we were still in touch because they are like swimming in the winter and stuff like that. Young Philip made last week La Manche in like record time, and he was swimming over the night, whatever. 19 years old. His father wrote to me, Jan, it's because we attended your seminar. You basically switch his mindset. You basically really make this. You were like motor like engine for him, and he changed and he started to work on him a lot. So I,
Amazing.
it's amazing. It is amazing when something like that happened to you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So hopefully someone out there is now going to have their life changed from this
Yeah,
conversation.
you don't need to go over Lama, and there's always a your life, right? There are some challenges.
Yes. So if there's any specific theme or topic you'd like for us to discuss next time, write it into the chat here, and we will be back in 2 weeks talking to you
Absolutely,
about something very important.
absolutely. And we will fix. LinkedIn works, but only from my profile. I don't know why those links are not working, but anyway, it will be
We'll
captured
fix it.
also on LinkedIn, right? Because it's there. Okay, guys, thanks very much.
Good.
All the best, and see
Thanks,
you soon.
everyone. Take care.
Yeah.